coaching session. My name is Cole Nebaker, and I am joined with Jeremy Stokes, who is our support manager, a friendly and familiar face. Today's session, we're going to be talking about advanced system management. So we're going to be covering system events and some very niche and very specific applications that maybe you've run into and maybe you haven't, but they're going to be maybe very helpful for you in specific job sites because we get a lot of questions and comments from support on needing some training on this. So I really cannot read the live chat as we go because people just goof off in there, and then I want to goof off, and then I get nothing done. So let's just get right into it. Be sure to leave your comments in the comments section because I will be reading them off at the end of the video in answering any questions that we have. Any that I can't answer, our good friend Jeremy Stokes will answer on my behalf.
That's what I'm here for.
He's a smart man, sometimes.
Yikes.
So, all the time. He's always smart. So let's get into the presentation. All right. I can make my way back to the beginning here if you want, Keith. There we go. Perfect. Spoilers ahead. There we go.
Okay, there you go.
So let's start with why advanced system management even matters. It is just going through the slides automatically for some reason. So the reason that advanced system management matters is because we can program a lot of important safety items through here. So what this means, it's going through the slides automatically. So, back to our faces. Please hold. Okay, I think there it is. All right. So this can be an important safety feature for a lot of important applications. Think of schools and secure buildings, campuses, churches, whatever the case is. You may need to utilize one or even multiple safety components in order to secure that facility. So these are the different combinations that we are going to cover, including lockdown, mantrap, alarm integration, and system override. Like I said, this is a very specialized, very specific presentation on these things. We have other resources available on system events in general, but I wanted to specifically cover these. So let's start with a lockdown. So a lockdown is just a security measure designed to restrict access to a place or resource, very simply speaking. You're probably most familiar with it at secure sites like schools. Schools frequently have these lockdown measures and policies implemented, so in the case of danger to the students and the campus, they can quickly lock down all of the resources. It's important to note that you will want to have some sort of override, which is why I included the override at the end of this video. It doesn't do us much good to do a system lockdown if emergency responders can't get in. Right. That's kind of been a pet peeve of mine. Have you ever watched those body cam footages of police responding? It drives me crazy that for a lot of those, you watch it and the police have to break through a frickin' window to get into the school. So anyways, I guess that's kind of a rant, but it's very important to create an override for authorized individuals so that they can quickly and safely get into the building after the lockdown's been initiated. Yeah,
and I love that it's so easy on PDK to set that up. I think it's very cool.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll cover, I forgot to mention, we're going to have a video in place at the end of this that we're going to go through how to actually program each one of these. So you'll see what we mean when we say it's super easy to do that. All right, getting into the next one, we have mantraps. So mantraps are designed to trap man, I guess.
That's what they're for.
If we want to break down the meaning of the word. It's really a small regulated space that you go into prior to getting into a secure area. And again, I think of schools when I think of this. As only place I've really experienced it, but I know sometimes this is in place at senior centers and health facilities.
Some high security warehouse stuff I've been through have had it. Jewelry stores a lot of time have mantraps in the front door. So high-end stuff like that for sure.
So something needing that extra security, extra time to process people getting in.
Yep.
So basically what it is it allows you access into the first set of doors, and then you're in basically just a teeny tiny room between two different sets of doors, and it traps you in there until the other door closes fully, and then it allows you to get through the second set of doors. So it can be longer if you choose to. Allow staff to validate credentials, biometrics. The school that I'm thinking of that I've been to, you press a little video intercom and they validate who you are and that you have an appointment to see a student.
Yep.
Or check them out.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say also like jails and stuff. They'll have them on there. That's one of the first ones I set up was for a jail. A Sally Port is what they call it, but they drop people off and then take them in. So they trap them in that space.
Probably makes sense. I mean, that's kind of where we want to trap people is in a jail.
Yep.
That's where we want them trapped.
Yep.
All right. Getting into the next one, alarm integrations. This could be a couple of different alarms. This one in particular is focusing on burglar alarms. And what this allows is for us to automatically allow access into the building and at the same time simultaneously disable an alarm panel. So this means that you just don't need to disable an alarm in two separate places. Your access being allowed is enough to disarm the system. And alternatively, you can also arm the system. So we have a full in-depth video on our YouTube channel. You can look it up with PDK and burglar alarms that goes through how to wire it. I don't have that video here, but we pulled open an actual burglar alarm system and a PDK panel, and I wired the two together and then did some screenshots and screen recordings of the programming for it. We're going to go over the programming of it today, but it's fairly straightforward, right? You just tie a relay from the PDK panel into an input on the burglar alarm system. And it can be a couple things. It can be a dedicated arm and disarm input on the alarm panel. Mine was labeled something different. I can't remember exactly what it was.
I don't remember.
But it was just a dedicated input, and the user manual said, hey, tie into here if you want to perform a certain action, and then it'll perform that action whenever it detects an input. Yeah. So it's really simple. It sounds complicated,
very easy,
but it's not. So that's it for alarm integrations. And then finally, we have our override. So again, this is an important counterpart to any of the previous, with the exception of maybe that alarm integration. Overrides allow you to specify which staff, personnel, or services can disable a security measure designed to keep a security threat out. So when you initiate a lockdown or initiate a man trap, it's important to have somebody or some authorized individuals that are able to override that. And that will probably be programmed as a group event, which again we'll show in the video. Yep. Make sure you have multiple overrides available, not just one niche one, and maybe that supervisor comes into work once a month. You know, that's not super helpful in any case. Yeah. So just in case a person's unavailable or a system component's unreachable, you want to make sure you have a couple of methods to override that measure. All right, and that is it for this presentation. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the video. But it's pretty straightforward. Be sure to leave your questions in the comments so we can answer them. I think maybe some of these questions are going to be answered as we go into the programming in the PDK.io software.
Yep.
All right, let's get started with that. All right, so you can see here we're in Cedar Mountain Elementary School, and we're going over to system events. Now, there's two things that are important when you are programming these kinds of things. It's going to be system events and group events. System events are going to receive a system input to trigger an action, such as a lockdown, and group events are going to receive a user input to trigger an event or action. So system events is where I'm going to start, but I'll migrate over to group events. It's important to note that if, for example, you want somebody to be able to initiate a lockdown, let's say with a triple card swipe, you would do that under group events, not system events, because that's based on a user input. But getting into our system events, we're going to start with a lockdown. So you can see I'm going to set it to, name it a lockdown, and I'm going to set it to always. It makes sense in my head that you would always want to be able to initiate a lockdown. That may not always be the case, but I would assume that will be the case. Now, note that I set the action to on-rex close. There's a couple ways to do lockdowns, and I'll let Jeremy chime in with some other ways that maybe he's seen too. The way I was thinking in this video was a dedicated lockdown device. So I know that schools have their own, can sometimes have their own lockdown systems, which are a third-party PA system and lockdown mechanism, which allow them to initiate a lockdown from maybe the administrative office. You can tie that in using one of those relays into the PDK system through one of our Rex inputs. So that's one of the ways, but that's not the only way to initiate a lockdown.
I mean, yeah, the only other one would be, not only other one, sorry, that came out wrong. The only one, wow, I keep saying only. The only is in there.
Way.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep,
Thank
there
you.
it is.
The other ways that I would do it are mostly going to be in group events rather than system events based off of user, like Cole was saying. Do we go over that later on?
We don't in this video, no.
So, you know, there's duress pin, like you said, there's triple swipe, double swipe. There's, you know, a couple different options in there. You can also do on-rex open rather than on-rex close in this section, depending on the device that you have and how it reports. So that, yeah, there's a couple different ways. You could do it on DPS open as well. Basically, any trigger, right?
Any input,
that's available, you could set a lockdown.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what resources you have at your disposal, what's built into the system you have, and maybe how accessible you want it to be for staff to initiate a lockdown. I did work with somebody before who wanted any of the faculty to be able to initiate a lockdown. They just go up to the closest reader and they do a triple card swipe.
That's pretty popular. Yep.
And that makes it so that if the administrative office is unaware of a threat, maybe faculty is, and they can initiate a lockdown. Some people don't like that because faculty sometimes accidentally triple card swipe somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
Who knows? Some way.
Who knows how it actually happens, but oops.
So you can see I selected the lockdown device, and then I just select all of the other doors in the system to activate the lockdown on. Let me pause it. Oh, I didn't pause it fast enough. That's okay. You can go back and watch this video. It's fine. So, thank you, Keith. I forgot how to pause. There we go. So you can see I selected all of the other doors, but not the lockdown device, because you don't want to lock down the lockdown device. Correct. It means you can't deactivate the lockdown using that device, or you won't be able to initiate a secondary lockdown, whatever the case is.
Right.
Be sure to select every other device except the ones that can't be locked down.
Yeah.
Okay, now going into the next programming, and this one's going to be a little bit long, bear with me. But the reason it is going to be so long is because there are 4 separate steps for creating a man trap through the software. You need to create 2 separate triggers on each set of doors to lock down on and lock down off that door. So this one is on open, on one of the doors being open, lock down the other set of doors. And then we're going to do on close, a lockdown off the other set of doors, and then vice versa on the second set of doors. That was a lot of words, but I wanted to leave that in here so that you can kind of follow along if you are programming a man trap. You can just follow along and basically just copy and paste what I've done here. Now you'll also notice that for my devices, I have a primary and a secondary. The idea behind this is that I have a primary reader which is going into the building, and I have a secondary reader which is going out of the building. Credentials are requested at both of those readers, and that's why we have 2 separate readers in here. That won't always be the case, but worth noting, if you do have a primary and secondary reader with OSDP, you can tie them both into the same port, and you just program it as a primary and secondary device in configuration.
Yeah. One thing that I notice in helping people make man traps, I think the naming of the rules is pretty important on this one. Mm-hmm. That way you know if something's not working, you know which rule to go in and mess around with.
That's a good point.
So you not that there's anything wrong with how you named it, but you named it pretty generic.
There definitely is. Yeah, no,
pretty generic.
I definitely just did man trap 1, man trap 2, man trap 3, and that won't tell me which direction the person is going and which doors are locked down at any given time. Yep. So you can just go in and name them better than I did.
Generally, I would just do whatever the door is that you're locking down, and I would just call it lockdown on or lockdown off. Mm-hmm. So I know which door is supposed to be locking down. That way when the rule processes, I can make sure it does it correctly with what I'm expecting it to do.
Perfect. All right, so as we program the final man trap rule here, we have our final doors which we are turning the lockdown off on. So that means that the doors will let us in, and then we will have to wait to get through the second set of doors until the doors close behind us, at which point they will unlock. Now, getting into the alarm arm and disarm, this is for a burglar alarm. So this will be specified based on permissions because we don't want just anybody gaining access to the building to be able to disable the alarm. So you can see this is a group event. We created a new group, created a new rule, went to events, set the schedule to always, and now we are saying when allowed, we can open/close a relay. And that's going to send a pulse to the alarm panel, which we have tied into physically, and it will disable that alarm panel. So we just need to select our source devices where we are receiving the access allowed, and we need to target the alarm, which is probably set up in your system as a premium I/O device. You could alternatively do just a generic I/O device as well. Then we need to set a secondary access rule so that people are actually even allowed to access that door. That's a very important step. Obviously, if you set a group event saying when allowed, open/close, it's not going to work unless somebody actually has access to that door. And then we have our system override. And you can see what we're going to do here is create a rule and go over to events, and we're going to name it a system override, presumably. And we're going to set the schedule to always because we want this to counteract a system lockdown, for example. So we always want this to be overridden. And we actually do something a little bit interesting. This is where a lot of people get held up. Obviously, if a school is in lockdown, nobody's going to be allowed access.
Yep.
So you're not going to write when allowed because nobody will be allowed. Even if they have permissions, they're not going to be allowed.
Yep.
So you need to set a rule that says when denied explicit. So when the system explicitly tells somebody that they have been denied access, allow them to override the system lockdown. So we'll go ahead and hit when denied. Maybe. There we go. My play button wasn't working for a minute. And we'll do lockdown off, and it will just do it on that particular site. So you will need to set one of these rules on a per site basis, select your source devices where they can do this, and then set your target devices to same as source devices. Then you'll also, of course, need to create an allowed schedule, and you'll add your members to this group. And those members are going to be the ones that actually have access to override a system lockdown. All right, so just to recap all of the rules that I have written out here, so you can copy and paste for your own purposes. And for the groups as well, you can see we have our alarm arm and disarm, our all access group, and our system override group. So this video, of course, is saved after the fact, so you can go back in and review this video as needed. But that recaps it for this video. Did I miss anything?
I would like to just talk about one thing.
Okay.
Your system override. A lot of times, the way you made that rule would turn off the lockdown on that door. The way that I talk to people about it, and that's fine. That's fine the way it's done. But you can also do when denied explicit open/close. and it'll just open that relay and close the relay behind. So if the police are trying to get in this door for a lockdown situation, it'll keep the lockdown on, but it'll still open and close that relay just for that one group of people. So I ended up doing that quite a bit for people, teaching them, showing them how to do that part of it. So just something to add on to there. As far as another option for somebody who wants to get through a lockdown, you can just do open/close, which will keep the lockdown active on that door, and so they can go through that door.
Look at this smart guy.
Yeah.
This is why he's here.
I like it.
So any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm going to go through here in just a moment and start reading them. But again, these videos come out the first Tuesday of every month. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bar so that you can be notified of these kinds of videos that come out as they come out. So let me just go through, make sure we don't have any questions, and there's a 30-second delay, so as you filter those questions through, they'll start to come through. We're talking about the Simon Garfunkel.
Terrible. I said it.
You said it live.
I said it, Benji.
That's on YouTube forever.
I said it, Benji. Disturbed version
I'm sorry,
better.
Benji. I agree. I like the Disturbed version better. Simon and Garfunkel have their place, but
yeah.
And then we had the technical difficulties. Brock's going to turn the car around. Just darkness. Ryan is distraught because he can hear me. Government buildings. I assume that's when we were talking about
the mantraps. Yep.
Amazon corporate offices all have the mantraps.
Yep.
Jesse, can we see that example? I don't have it's a video, so I'll have to direct you back into the video. Once we finish this video, it's going to publish live. Just scroll back to the example and hit pause there.
Benji's big mad at me.
Benji's real mad. He's good. I mean, I get it.
I get it.
I understand the distress.
Yeah, me too. But it is better. I'll say it again.
Doubling down.
That's right.
Sorry, Jesse. Go back in the video because I don't have the ability to scrub that video back to the example you're referencing. As soon as this video finishes, it'll publish, and you can go back and hit pause right where that example was so you can copy and paste it down. All right. Well, I think that is everything. I don't see anything else coming through. So like, subscribe, notifications. Yep. We will catch you at the next live broadcast in April, the beginning of April.